Being at level 100, you are vastly overqualified for a job as a city gate guard. But as your king so wisely put it, a forest with only deer deters nobody, but one with a dragon hidden inside will be given a wide berth. The sun was shining and clouds neatly decorated the sky while a gentle summer's breeze came through to cool off the ground. Birds were singing to one another while the sound of carriages carrying both passengers and goods filled the otherwise empty space. All in all, a great first day to kick off my new job, guarding the gates to the capital city of Gwendale. Unfortunately, I just couldn't seem to enjoy retirement as my days were much too boring and lacked any sort of purpose. My previous job? Oh, it was being a world-renowned adventurer. If I remember correctly, the names that people called me were similar to the Chosen Champion, the Shining Hero, or the Blazing Victor, though I was never much for titles when it came to adventuring. I was happy to be with my companions and journey through the lands with all of them. However, as time passed, they aged, and I did not, at least not by much thanks to the elven blood that ran through my veins. I tried to join other parties and recapture that lost youth, but the feeling was never the same. Most of the time, it ended terribly with my newer companions getting injured or worse. So I retired and switched to this job to fill time. Being told to watch a gate was easily a lot more relaxed than my previous life. I could simply do my daily work and return home. It was interesting when I applied for the job, though. The King of Gwendale had requested me to meet with him a few days after my application had been sent, with a carriage being sent to retrieve me and take me there personally. Even in my times of adventuring, I had never received such treatment, which worried me greatly. King Guile, generous as he was, didn't often send carriages to regular citizens, if I had to guess. So imagine my surprise when once I was escorted to the Grand Hall, not only was the king there, but his entire cabinet of advisors were there, as well as the queen and his children. I apologize, my king. I appear to have intruded on some type of meeting. I was surely going to kick the ass of the person who brought me in at such a bad time, but before I had the opportunity to leave, King Guile spoke up and stopped me. Nonsense! Please, this meeting is for you. Come and sit. He gestured towards an empty chair that was fit for an advisor of noble rank. Hesitantly, and with my eyes scanning the room, I took a few steps towards the chair and sat down. Just to be clear, you are Elaharin, the chosen champion of legend, yes? The hero who traveled with the legendary party that was tasked with slaying Dolmir, the World Eater? All eyes were on me expectantly, and I immediately cursed myself for putting my actual name on the application. Stupid. Yes, I'm aware. With a sigh, I answered as politely as I could. Yes, that was one of my former titles. A hushed murmur flooded the room, and it was as if I was some sort of celebrity. I see. His demeanor changed to one of more inquisitive and less excited than before. And you are applying to be He held a piece of paper in his hand and read over it closely. Gate guard? Am I reading this correctly? I simply nodded in response, which sent a little more fervor throughout the room. The room fell silent as a man at the table slammed his fist on the table and interjected. My king, please. A position of that caliber to a hero of this stature would be far beneath them. They would be much more suited for a position within your army as a general. With his expertise and skill, he could certainly assist in expanding your control and strengthening your forces. The man was older, perhaps about 40 in human years, with hair that was already graying. He had a scar that ran across his cheek, and his skin was leathered as if it had seen more than its fair share of sunlight. When he spoke of the role he proposed, the idea almost made me sick, having to sit in meetings, controlling others' lives, and most of all, having people kiss up to me in hopes of gaining something. No thanks. Thankfully, someone else cut in, a woman who looked to be younger and was conventionally attractive. She spoke with a certain air about herself, as if those were beneath her. My king, certainly he would be better suited as a member of nobility. He already has more than enough stories and tales to vault him into high society, and someone with his worldly knowledge would be greatly welcomed here. This seemed to garner some murmurs of agreement from the bystanders, but if the idea of being a general was bad, in my opinion, then the idea of being in a room such as this, having to navigate the egos and backstabbing of those around me while trying to maintain my own status was even worse to me. Plus, I did not enjoy how this woman was eyeing me. It made me feel like a piece of meat. Then, everyone else began to plead their case of where I should go. One suggested becoming a professor at the academy to educate the youth and train them into the next generation of skilled warriors, heroes, and adventurers. Not a bad option, to be honest. While another suggested that I could act as a mouthpiece for the king. Very bad option. Even the queen, who I originally had high hopes for due to her not offering a suggestion, gave him the idea of having me marry one of their children. While I'm sure that their children are Just lovely. I am very certain that they are not even remotely close to my age. I doubt they would understand any of my references or even know how to relate to any of my experiences, so that would have been a strong no. In the end, the king raised a hand and the hall fell silent. Such is the power of a king, I guess. Good sir. While I am not sure exactly what your place would be, I do have to agree that your legacy would raise you to a position where being a gate guard would be insulting. I do have to ask, why would you apply for such a position? To be honest, the question gave me pause, as I hadn't really expected to be asked something of this nature. Come to think of it, why did I really want to be a gate guard? A few moments passed and the crowd were hanging on bated breaths as I prepared to answer. To be honest, my king, I am tired. The answer was certainly not one they were expecting as they patiently waited for me to continue. I have seen a lot in my lifetime, many triumphant successes and even more hardships. Perhaps there will be a time where I would like to achieve all of these great things that you all speak of so highly, but for now I just want to guard a gate, do my duty, and return home. It may be looked down upon, but I find it an admirable task. But if you are saying that I am not the proper candidate for the position or that it is already filled, then I apologize for taking your time and can see myself out. With that small speech, I rose from my seat and prepared to take my leave away from all of these people. However, before I could get 2 steps in, King Guile already had a quill in hand and had begun signing my application. That is an answer that I didn't quite expect, but am pleasantly delighted to hear. For that, your first day on duty will be the 1st of the next month. Does that work for you? His smile seemed to be genuine, which caught me off guard, as did it for the myriad of his supporters in the room and garnered a bit of protest from them as well. Once again, the king raised his hand and all fell silent. God, I've got to learn how to do that so people will shut up when I need them to. Maybe he'll teach me. My father taught me something once while preparing me to take on the mantle of king, specifically about the security of our physical location. You always asked why I make sure that some of our best guard our gates and are not instead sent to war. I will tell you. At this point, this seemed to be directed at the entire room and not just me. My father always said, "A forest with only deer deters nobody, but one with a dragon hidden inside will be given a wide berth." At this, his attention turned to me and smiled once more. My friends, it would seem that Gwendale has found its dragon. And just like that, I was trained on proper procedures of guarding the capital, how to properly inspect carriages, advice for assisting visiting travelers, among a myriad of things. It took a little getting used to, but I handled all of the information quite well and I got placed on my first solo shift. The only thing for the day was a caravan of military troops and supplies returning from a tour into the countryside. Otherwise, an easy day of enjoying the sun and breeze was in my immediate future. A sigh of relaxation escaped my lungs as I wondered what my former teammates would think of me switching lifestyles to one such as this. Perhaps they'd be mad at me for abandoning the life of an adventurer. Or maybe they would laugh and be proud. I'd be sure to ask them whenever I decided to join them in the afterlife. A small chuckle escaped me as I continued to ponder on the thought when something caught my eye. A carriage. Actually, it was a flurry of carriages and horses with riders, all of whom wore the colors of Gwendale, my new employer. As they got closer, I could tell that many of them were bleeding and injured with panic and fear in their eyes. Though this could be a trick, and I still had a job to do, so I immediately closed the gate so that they could be properly identified and inspected. That was not causing them to slow, though, as many of them screamed and cursed at me to open the gate. Unfortunately for them, I did no such thing and kept it closed, causing them to have to stop in their tracks. I'm sorry, good people, but I am going to need— You idiot! Raise the gate! They're coming! The fact that I was cut off by so many voices made me lose focus for a second. I'm sorry. Who's coming? As if on cue, what I can only describe as a flood of goblins, both regular and enhanced, emerged from the forest and I could see why they ran. A simple group of them, an army of this caliber should be able to handle with relative ease. However, this size would overrun them in seconds. Even if they were all about 10-20 on a scale of 100 in terms of strength, there is still that in abundance when you have superior numbers. Slowly, they formed a circle that surrounded the group and myself and took a surprisingly large part of the gate. At this point, a man ran up to me and grabbed me by the shirt. "You fool! You've killed us all! Not only us, but these goblins are going to rain terror on the capital! What is wrong with you?" The rank appeared on his shirt, and if my memory served correctly, he was a captain. Surely he could have handled a few of these on his own. Unless they tried, and this is still the force that was left. Before I could ask, an enhanced and armored goblin made his way through the crowd of his own forces. He was impossible to miss, as he measured to be about 12 feet tall, where a normal one was about 3 feet high, and the enhanced were about 6 feet. "We take food, then we kill you." There was sneering from the goblins as he made his threat, though I think he got the order mixed up. Fear caused the captain's color to drain from his face while he released the grip on my shirt. Now that I was free, I decided to make my way to the front and address the leader, my hand on my sword.